Good morning or good afternoon, I guess I should start things off with. My name is Barry Wright, and I'm the Dean of the Goodman School of Business. And I'm here to start things off today. To begin, I would like to acknowledge the land that we're gathered on is the traditional territories of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabes people, many whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is governed by the Upper Canada Treaty and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people, and acknowledging reminds us of our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous people. And as I read through this, and as we start our meetings at Brock University off with the land acknowledgement, for me, one of the things that's really important is to recognize truly what it means, the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. And as my understanding is, it's where peoples will get together and recognize that we need to live in harmony with this beautiful land that we're there. And so it is the dish with which we share. And the one spoon is to make sure that we manage the resources well and make sure that there's enough for all. And I think that's a great wisdom in this wonderful world when we need to be focused so much on sustainability. And I'm so pleased that we can acknowledge that learning has come from our colleagues, our Indigenous colleagues, and we are continued to strive towards that today. Well, this is our fifth collaboration between the Goodman School of Business and the Office of the Vice-President Indigenous Engagement, here to bring this Indigenous Leader Speaker Series. For those, some of you may have joined us in all of them, but here's our past one. So last year we had Jonathan Davey. He's a proud member of the Lower Cayuga of Six Nations of the Grand River. And Jonathan is the Chief of Staff to the President and CEO of Scotiabank. Karen McKenzie joined us previous, and she's a proud Cree Métis woman, co-founder and president of Macintosh Canada. Mallory Yahweh, who grew up in Saddle Lake First Nations, is the founder and CEO of Indigenous Box. And our inaugural Indigenous leader is Jen Harper, who after reconnecting with her Indigenous roots, came together and founded Cheekbone Beauty. And each one of those stories have been fabulous. I've had a chance to be a part of each one of them, and I'm very much excited about our stories that are going to happen today. And to get that started, I'd like to introduce and pass the speaking stick over to Robyn Bourgeois, who is the Vice-Provost of Indigenous Education here at Brock University. Robyn, over to you.
Thank you, Barry. Tanse, Kinanas Komatena Au. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I'm so excited. You have no idea how excited I am for today. I think, if I'm honest, this is 6 years in the making. And oh my God, when we were prepping for this, this person said they were going to cry, and now I'm like, because that's how we do this. But this human being, like, I can't say enough, just has been such a gift in my life, has been an incredible collaborator, just is a role model for me. I watch her and I'm just like, how lucky am I to be alive at this time and know this human being? And I am so honored today to welcome one of my favorite people in the whole entire world, and someone I think embodies what the spirit of this whole, the intent of this event is to celebrate leadership in all its forms, but also Indigenous excellence. And to me, this person is all of that. And so I'm so honored to welcome my dear friend, Fallon Farinacci, today. So hi, Fallon. Welcome.
Robyn, my goodness. Not even a couple minutes in and you helped me.
This is our way, though.
I have to say, before we start, everything with what you just said, you inspire me.
Aww.
You do.
Thank you, Fred. And yeah, you know what? I think this is why you and I are meant to be together, right? I think in so many ways. But for those of you, I know there's lots of folks who are joining who are really familiar likely with your story, but for those who aren't, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So my spirit name is White Thunder Woman. And the elder who gifted me my name said, I'm here to make a lot of noise. I had no idea what that meant, even though I was already kind of using my voice at that time. I think, you know, what sometimes life throws at us and trauma, you don't see yourself in the way that maybe others do, or even the way I was meant to be with my spirit name. I didn't realize what I was doing already at that time. So I'm Red River Métis. I grew up in southern Manitoba, just outside of Winnipeg, in a little rural community called St. Eustache, and that's where my father and my grandparents were all from. And I would say that my great-grandparents were from there too, but they weren't, because of they had to move from settlements and along the Red River, but they were part of St. Francis Xavier. And so our family just kind of moved down the river, as many families have. And so, yeah, I lived out there, and I was very privileged to grow up in my community and to be surrounded by it, and to have a dad who is so proud to be Métis. And then, unfortunately, at the age of 9, I lost both of my parents from a stalker, a community member who had been stalking my parents, or my mother specifically. And while I did lose them to him, I lost him because of the lack of support from the justice system, the RCMP. You know, just a really quick version of it. An RCMP officer received the 911 call and then, quote, accidentally fell back asleep. And it took the police 6 hours to enter our home while myself and my younger brother were held hostage. And so from there, obviously, our family endured a lot of trauma, myself and my brothers. And as a result, over the years that came afterwards, I lost both of my brothers to suicide. And so it was a blessing that my family didn't shy away from talking about it and advocating, because I think that really gave me the power back, and it gave my voice the power back. And from there, I continued to share and bring awareness. And then it was in 2017, I testified for the national inquiry. And then in 2019, joined the Family Advisory Circle. And not long after, this woman that we're looking at here on the screen had decided herself she did not want the calls to justice to sit on a shelf. And I, as a community member, received the flyer that went up, and I emailed Robyn and said, can I join? Because there is so much healing in community. And Robyn, you have been a huge part of my healing journey, and giving me that space here for home, because I had to move from my community to be here. And for so long, I would say, I want to go home. I want to go home. And I would cry that into adulthood. And I don't do that anymore, because of people like you who have given me a space here to feel accepted and seen and not alone in what I've gone through. And so from there, I started sharing online on social media. It was just a few days ago, on June 16th in 2023, that I had, oh wait, we're 2025, that's wrong, 2021, that I had started the fundraiser. Mm-hmm. And then that kind of propelled me using social media as a way to get the message across and to start to really share.
Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, actually, if we can dive into that a little bit, because I think, one of the reasons that blows my mind, that absolutely blows my mind, is the amount of money that you have single-handedly raised for Abbey House, which is our local shelter specifically for Indigenous women and girls. But I think that the journey to getting there is actually really fascinating for people to understand. Like, I'm kind of hinting at things here because I know your apprehension originally, and now look at you. So do you want to talk about that work a little bit for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I almost didn't press enter on the GoFundMe. I genuinely almost did not. I sat there and I really contemplated for a minute, because for me, it hit me like just a brick wall. If I press enter and no one donates to this fundraiser, that's a slap in the face, a realization, the thought of, you know, some people might think, oh, why wouldn't you? Well, because for so long, no one cared. So I thought, what would be the difference if I did this? And I didn't want to disappoint community, obviously. And so I don't know what came over me, spirit, definitely, and press enter. And you said single-handedly. I will accept that you said that. However, I will say that nothing is done without people coming together and community. And this has been a community effort.
Well, and for those who are listening, you have to understand that this fundraiser came about as a significant birthday for Fallon. And so maybe you can tell the folks a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So in 2021, I was going to be the first person in my family to turn 38. At that point, my younger brother was still alive, but obviously he was younger than me, so he hadn't turned 38. I myself hadn't turned 38. And my father had died before his 38th birthday, along with my mother and my younger brother. And so that was something I wanted to shift the narrative on. I wanted to celebrate the fact that I was still here. Unfortunately, since then, my younger brother, he did pass away before his 38th birthday. So I am the only living person in my family that had made it to the age of 38. And I chose Abbey House because I was on a call. I was speaking for a red dress event that, again, Robyn put on. So we are so connected. And a lot of times when you go to events, you don't necessarily, you know, get the back end of things. And I didn't know that the funds from these tickets were going to be going to Abbey House. And I started Googling right on the call thinking, I need to learn about this place. So Robyn, you have been the driving force behind all of the funds that have gone to Abbey House. So I need you to take that in, because it really would not have happened without you.
Thank you. And it's grown. I mean, you started with a goal of what, 38,000 or 30, what was it originally?
$3,800.
And then 38,000. And it's expanded. Where else have you gone for those folks who are listening right now?
Yeah. So on the GoFundMe itself, I believe we've officially hit $111,000.
Gosh.
GoFundMe themselves have actually reached out to me just about a month ago to say, you've got to up that amount on there. Keep going. Like a personal person from there has reached out, which I thought was so lovely. I've been able to collaborate with so many incredible businesses. Indigenous businesses have been so beautiful to be able to not only work with them to raise funds for Abbey House, but then also together getting the messages across for these businesses like Lofton here in Niagara, and then collaborating with Poppy and Peonies a couple of times. We just launched this week, and our goal, our hope is that we can sell out the collection for a very large number to be able to donate to Abbey House. And I mean, oh my gosh, there have been so many other collaborations that have come along the way that have just, you know, meant so much to me. And then just even going out to high schools in Niagara or even elsewhere and having their students fundraise with bake sales and donating to Abbey House. So this has quite literally been such a beautiful community effort.
Well, and one of my favorites is the winter event, because I know Christmas is one of your favorite events. And then here we get to have this incredible party at the watering can and make these beautiful decorations, all in support of your efforts, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, and this year will be the 5th year. And technically, we've actually had a 5th event already because we did a collaboration with Jen Harper and Cheekbone Beauty, which is so beautiful also to come full circle for here, right? So
absolutely, absolutely. I think I have two questions to ask next, and I don't know which order, so I'm going to just throw them out. One, it seems to me that in your leadership, that collaboration is fundamental. So could you speak a little bit about the significance of collaboration in your efforts to raise awareness and to change this world?
Absolutely. I mean, I lived in a little community and everything was done together. My parents were part of the community club. My dad was the president for our local for the Manitoba Métis Federation. That wasn't done alone ever. So I think that my parents did such a beautiful job at modeling that for me, because together is how we can truly make change and come together and propel it forward. You know, it's one of those things. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it alone. Maybe I could do some things alone. It'd be really slow and it would feel alone. And doing it with community, I had said earlier, there's a healing element to it. I'm just fueled up by getting to be around so many great people. And then you get inspired yourself by seeing others care and want to pour themselves out into community and to bring change. Our voices are louder together. And I think that that really, I mean, I love gathering with people. It's one of my favorite things to do is to come together and bring people together selfishly because I love it. And I hope that other people can feel that too. And, you know, maybe you're in a place where you don't necessarily come out or you feel comfortable coming out to community events, but when you have people who are saying like, come and do these things with me, that might make people feel a little more comfortable and might get them coming out to maybe future events or fundraisings, and then getting people feeling like they are a part of a community is important.
Absolutely. So my next question comes out of this a bit, but one of the things that I love that you and I share, like as if we don't share enough, like the world meant for us to be together, because we are both mothers of 3 children. And in fact, our youngest are born within weeks of each other. And I am always eager for people to understand, how do you balance your commitments to the work you're doing in your leadership with also being the mother of 3 kids? How does that work for you?
Oh, it's not easy. We'll say that. It's not easy. You have to be intentional with it. And so, you know, I want my kids always to come out to these things that I do. I'm so happy. I actually had my 2 oldest with me at the event that I had this week. Vetter would not have come, my youngest, because he would like to fly everywhere, because anything that takes 10 minutes or longer, he thinks is wild to drive that distance. He just would like to get there fast and get home fast as well. So I think just having them being a part of it has really helped, and then explaining them to what I'm doing and the importance of it. And then that way, when I am home, I can, you know, talk about it with them, but then we can just dive right into just being together, right? You know, that call, just saying, being right there, the call that we had with Jesse Wente that, again, Robyn had put on and I was a part of, he talked about the significance and the importance of just being instead of doing. And so for me, I can go and do the work outside of the home, but when I'm home, I can just be with my kids. And then we're doing this so that they can just be too, right? So being really intentional about our time when we are together home, I think really helps the balancing of it all.
Absolutely. Well, and I think too, one of the things I also admire is that you have an incredibly supportive partner. And I'm just giving a shout out to Luke, because I think Luke is awesome. And every time when I see a lot of you alone, but he has been there in some of our most significant events. He has been this third person with us in that journey too.
Yeah, absolutely. He's my rock. He absolutely is. And I'm just so grateful for him. I mean, you know, I think back so often to having him at many gatherings with family members. And, you know, he got to come with me when I was with Sheena and her mom. And we, you know, Luke will always say when he comes to events that, and this is how I know that it's so important for people to like come out and understand and listen and really get to know the people who, you know, are going through these things, because Luke just says every time that he's so blown away sometimes if he comes to, you know, gatherings, family gatherings, and if we are talking about, say, traumas, just how much of an impact and how much joy and happiness radiates from our community members, but yet he's just like can't believe what people have gone through to then just be these beautiful souls. And that has come from his mouth. And so I know that I have the right partner to be with me through all of this.
Oh, absolutely. Before I go, and we're going to go to another question that's related to that, but I'm just going to remind folks, you are invited to be part of this conversation as well. So if you have questions that you would like me to ask Fallon, please submit them and we will get there. But you mentioned something that, and this is a conversation you and I have had, I think ongoing now, probably, I don't know for how long, but both of us have survived pretty awful, horrible things, you know, things that we wish hadn't happened. And yet here we are. And how do we reconcile that, right? How do we reconcile these really horrible events with the fact that we are out there changing the world? And what the other part of that conversation you and I have had is, what makes us different? Like, why? And I want to, maybe we can have a little bit of that conversation for folks, because I think there is, you know, because if we could figure out how some of us survive trauma in a different way, maybe we could help everybody get there, right?
Yeah. I mean, oh my gosh, Robyn, you know, we need to really figure out this why.
Right?
I feel that is like the question that has been over us for quite some time, and just talking through it. I know we did last week when we got to be together as well, just talking a bit about it. I was at a gathering out for the Manitoba Métis Federation in March, and I was listening to David Chartrand, the president, speak, and he was talking about community, the importance of community. And I thought, maybe that's it. You know, maybe that is what it is. Not like that has really helped us get through this. And, you know, and honestly, I had an aha as I spoke the words just now when I was saying how you were the community member that pulled me in here. And I think that has been, and it's like, and I don't want to, for anyone that might be watching and listening and you're just reconnecting with community or you haven't yet, don't think that I'm just specifically talking about the Indigenous community. The community is who you have around you. And I do think that, for me anyway, I feel that has been a huge part of why I've been able to be here still. And maybe you feel this way too about our voice, or having our voice and using it has definitely helped me, because I haven't felt the shame around it. I've taken that back.
And you know what, that's one of the things I've thought about, because you know that I was very, very critical of the National Inquiry. And I mean, I remember when it was announced, writing one of the first pieces saying, we don't need this, like, let's get to action. And yet I'm grateful for it in many ways, because it brought us as a community together and allowed us, put our voices on a national and international stage, right? And I think that was critical in many ways, and one of the gifts of the inquiry. I mean, you mentioned, for example, and shout out to Sheena. I hope Sheena Joseph is watching, and Aileen Joseph, which another small connection that, you know, that happens to be the first family you connect with at the inquiry, and they happened to be at my wedding when I got married because they were from Six and my ex-husband is from Six. So, but we made all those connections, right? And I think that's, in some ways, that's what, you know, why you and I stick together in some ways, right? Because it's that support and understanding of each other and the elevation of our voice.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we have a great question that's just come in that I'm so excited to actually hear your answer, because I don't think I've ever asked you this, but someone in the audience wants to know, what has been the most unexpected learning in your journey?
Oh my
Right?
goodness. The most unexpected, that it would be at the very beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and that I wasn't alone.
Mm-hmm.
Because I say this quite often when I speak. These systems do a really good job at making you think that it's just you. This is your scenario. This is the platter you've been served. Deal with it, live with it. And I realized that I wasn't alone. And in that, it was quite literally, and I share this when I speak at the closing ceremonies, that I grabbed my husband's leg and I said, "Oh my God, I get it." And I said, "I'm the girl." And it gets me emotional thinking about it, because I'm like, I'm the girl. I had believed for so long, like, I just always said the story as it's not my story, but like my family's story, but I wasn't a part of it. Maybe that's a survival tactic as well, like to be like, oh, this is the story that happened, but not necessarily to me as well. And it was those realizations. And then in a beautiful part of the journey is like that coming together of not being alone in it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was exactly the story. I mean, when I think about that moment for you and like being like, well, why am I here? Because it was my dad who's Métis, and this doesn't link. And then all of a sudden that realization that, no, you're the girl. Like that story, I remember I've heard it a million times and I still get chills. That moment for you of that realization, that was like, what a profound moment.
Yeah, and like when I say it literally happened at the inquiry, in the middle of it, like people were speaking on stage. If I didn't whisper, I'm pretty sure Luke was probably like, "Why are you whispering right now during this very important, monumental moment?" Yeah.
Amazing. We have another question from the audience, and I like this one too. This is a really good question, but do you have any suggestions of how we can be good community members to others?
Meet them where they're at. Understand that we are all on this journey, and that this is a big one. And this is probably what people aren't going to expect me to say, that they may have boundaries up because they have to protect themselves, and we are all part of a community, but they might have boundaries up or certain things, and that is, we have to remember that a lot of community members have gone through traumas and that they are protecting themselves, and so that's where it's like, meet them where they're at. And I think that's really, really important. And let's not forget to celebrate. I think that's, I look at you, Robyn, and I think just everything that you've accomplished, and I just want to uplift you for that. And so I want to support you in that. And let's not do the colonizers' work and tear each other down.
And I think that's one of the things I've appreciated about our friendship, is that we've always met each other where we were at, and recognizing, we've both been through hard things. They're not intimately connected at all, in terms of our experiences, but I never felt like uncomfortable or ashamed or any of that with you. And I hope that in return that I've also done that with you and held space and met you where you were at, because I think that's a critical thing for people to hear, is that you have to meet people where they're at. And sometimes that means those walls are up because they're trying to protect themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to take you in a different direction, because this is another conversation, and I really want people to hear this part of this, because as you know, I work with the Domestic Violence Death Review Committee for the Chief Coroner of Ontario, and last year I was the lead author on a report about children in the aftermath of intimate partner homicide. And you and I have talked about this, but I think it would be really helpful for people who are listening, especially if they're in the helping professions. What do we need to do more and better for children who survive the aftermath of horrific experiences like you and your brothers survived?
There needs to be enough red tape with mental health. But this is, if we just lived in a world actually the way that Indigenous folks have led community and life of living for so long, and that having that wraparound support for mental health, that would make a world of difference. We need that. My brothers needed that. I needed that. That is just so very important. And, I just think even of my family in the aftermath of losing my youngest brother not even 2 years ago, and a police officer handing my sister-in-law a card for care. And I took the card because I thought, okay, well, I would be the person that would go and reach out for the support, not her, and it's just like, there has to be more. Like, there has to be having community members there right away. Let's stop putting the onus on the folks around them. Different situation with my brother, but still it's one of those situations where it falls on those families who are grieving at that time, and so there just needs to be more done.
Well, and I think, I've talked about this too, and I think it's important for people to hear that it's a long-term process, right? Like, the way it exists now, at least in Ontario, is that you get so many sessions, and it usually happens right in the aftermath when you're a young child. But does that solve the problem, right? And
there's so many barriers, and some, we have to remember, some kids don't want to talk right away, and they need some time. I mean, think of us as adults, how long we take sometimes to process things.
Yeah, absolutely. There's two questions here, and actually somebody was reading my mind out in the audience, so I'm excited to ask you both of these. But I want to start with this one and come back to the second one. But how do you balance explaining your childhood trauma with your kids without imprinting the trauma on them?
Yes, this is really good. I would say we definitely learned by the way that we had told my oldest. We told my oldest, it was around the inquiry time, because we would be offered media sometimes too, or if something was going to be on the news or in the newspaper, and we kind of sat him down and we told him. But I just told him without thinking of, I didn't go into detail, but I didn't tell him for so long I had removed the fact that those were his grandparents.
Yeah.
Because he had never met them. And so I saw how upset that made him. And so with Ever, our 15-year-old daughter, we've brought her into the community with it. And we've had her be a part of it, so that she is getting the balance of, yes, this happened, but look what's out there for you. You have community, and you have these gatherings. So we have the conversation in a very different way. And then with Vetter, he doesn't know, he knows my parents passed away, but he also knows that he has my parents' best friends as grandparents. And he too has the opportunity to come out and learn and be a part of community. And, he comes to the marches, and he knows why he's coming to those marches. But it's not in a way that we're traumatizing the kids.
Absolutely. And what I would say to that person as well, whoever asked the question, it's the same with my experience in trafficking. I've never hidden the impact of it, because I think there's really value in our kids seeing it's okay not to be okay. And sometimes those emotions are really strong, and we cry. I have been very age appropriate in explaining it, and not, my kids don't suffer that, I guess. They know. or they know details when things have come up. But I think there is a way to be able to have kids understand that without them being traumatized by your trauma, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And for the person that asked that question, am I still asking myself constantly, oh my gosh, am I re-traumatizing my children? Yes, I'm still asking that to myself every day. You know, you take it one step at a time, because you want to, you're just going to do that as a parent, regardless of what the trauma or lack of trauma is. Like, what am I doing? We're coming at, so many things come at us all the time as parents, right?
Absolutely. So this is a related question then. And this was the one I was like, I got to ask you this, because I don't know that we've ever talked about it, funny enough. But what are some of the like health and wellness practices that you do to take care of yourself and stay well in your journey? Because I mean, you're dealing with hard things. So how do you take care of you?
So I think, funny enough, actually coming to social media to use it as a platform was one of the first ways, because I was writing. And this was like, you know, the way of people are like, oh, why would you put that on social media? Like, why was that the first way? It was more about, I would share a photo of my parents and I would just share beautiful memories. So it was writing, but it just happened to be online. And so that definitely has been one way. And then drumming was introduced to me through the inquiry at some of the sessions with the National Family Advisor Circle. So that definitely has been a huge part of it. And then just going out and doing community gatherings, whether it's, you know, full moon ceremony or going out to the Love Garden. I get to go there later today, which is so nice, or all the things that Brock is holding. You guys, I sign up for Brock events all the time where I ask Robyn, can I come to that? Because that is a wellness practice for me. I do love it. And so that and gathering with people. When I go home to Manitoba, I always go to Elders Coffee. And that is I'm not an elder, and you're not supposed to go, but I always go, because there's so much healing in that for me too. So those are some of the practices. And then journaling, and I have like a manifestation journal, and that's one that I love to write in, because you just get to explore in a really positive way. It's like a different shift for writing for me too. So that's really special.
I'm interested, and I appreciate that you said social media was a critical part of that. Are you surprised at the response you've received on social media?
Yeah, I am. I'm, you know, I quite literally just said at the event the other day, I know that some, you know, people are like, oh my gosh, social media, like there's so much hate. Absolutely. However, I would say I'm really lucky at the community and grateful for the community who have come online to learn and listen, and just, yeah, I've actually had folks who have messaged me on social media from a podcast I had done, and I shared on the podcast. I was quite honest, you know, I have to ask you this question to the audience. Would you have listened if I didn't look the way I looked? If I wasn't white passing, would you have taken the time to have listened? And I had someone reach out to me and message me and say, you're right, I wouldn't have. And I'm so grateful that you met me with that I had to confront that. And so those messages are really, wow. And this is, I've actually not shared this publicly. I've had family members, now keep in mind the person who had taken my parents' life, he was a community member, so I do know a lot of his family, but I mean, we're Métis families. He was Métis, so we have, you know, relatives everywhere. I've had two of his relatives reach out to me in a positive way, in saying the impact that what he did had on their family, and that they were sorry. And yeah, I've never shared that. So
how was that for you?
Thank you for asking that. It's jarring, you know, and they always apologize for taking that step and messaging. But I'm not upset by it once I can process it, because, you know, we have to, I always say I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't think about the ways that systems failed him. And I'm by no means giving him any grace, so please don't take that the way it is, but I'm just thinking our communities as a whole are all impacted, and that's the message I'm trying to say, is that there is a lot that has to change, and that was part of it for him too. So
yeah, and I think there is a space to, like, you know, acknowledge that and acknowledge the harm that colonialism does to our people, but at the same time, like, hold people accountable, like, for your actions, right?
I am 100% holding him accountable.
Exactly.
And I think that his family, in messaging me, is like reiterating that, holding him accountable too.
Yeah, absolutely. I gotta say, one of my favorite Fallon stories or experiences with you was, and it just is, it's about 3 years ago this time.
Okay.
You and I are in Winnipeg, and we're standing in a hotel lobby, and this lady is looking at you and at me, and we're like, what's going on? And she comes up to you and she's like, excuse me, are you an influencer? It was this beautiful moment. But I mean, how does that feel to have, like, that kind of recognition? Like, people know you. You have this incredible power to shape the future. So what's that like?
I don't know. It feels out of body. It feels out of body, and I don't think I'll ever get used to it. It's an honor. It's an honor. Because I think, how did that woman come to me to come to say hi? What was the story?
Yeah.
What has she learned? What has she read? What has she heard me say on social? Because I think I can sit in that and not be uncomfortable, in the hopes of, like, wow, she's going to take maybe something I've said and go out in the world with a real ripple effect, right? Of change. So yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's really powerful. Where are you going next? What is in the future playbook of Fallon Farinacci?
Well, I will be going home this summer, which will be nice. And then I'll be going home in September as well to go speak, which is so special. Would you like to say where we're going to be going? Because that's probably the most heavy-hitting excitement. It also came from my manifesting journal as well. So.
But also, like, I mean, I was wondering beyond that, but I mean, one of the most exciting things that's come, at least this last week for us, is that you and I have been invited to present at the World Indigenous Peoples Conference on Education about the Decolonial Reading Circle. Because Fallon, this is really important for people to know, that Fallon went from the first year being somebody who was a participant, and when I realized what a gift it was to be in the presence of this human being and what we could do together to speak to that report as two people who participated in that process for very different reasons, but we both were there. What we could do in terms of public education, Fallon became a co-facilitator with me. And in fact, I hope at some point we could revisit whether we want to launch again, but we're going to New Zealand but I mean, we both felt this was critically important to open the door to conversation globally, right? So do you want to, I don't know, what because when I said it, you were like, I was already thinking that. So why New Zealand?
I really was thinking it already, because I had seen a couple things come up. Obviously, we know our kin and what we've endured, and what globally what we continue to see with genocide. And it was like, how come we haven't gone to New Zealand? Like, how come we've not gone there? And then Robyn came and said this, and I thought, oh my goodness, like, I almost fell over, because I had literally just been thinking that. And I just think the impact and the learning, like, that's the thing, to be able to go there, and there's so many layers, go there and speak with you, and oh my goodness, and then present together, but then what we're going to learn and take home with us is, it's again, it's going to be a part of that ripple effect, because I think that will inspire us so much to, not that we're not doing the work, but I can just imagine what will come from that, right? And so yeah, I know the other side of the question is like, what's next for Fallon? I'm not sure. I guess I'll follow Creator's plan, where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to do.
Well, and you know what I think about? I think one of the reasons I think New Zealand is so powerful for the work we're doing is that our experience in Winnipeg, when you and I attended that conference, and to hear that we were the only post-secondary institution that was doing this kind of public education around the inquiry, and then to hear after, people were emailing saying to me, how do we do this where we are? And now we're going to get to share that process with a global community, but also learn from others. So maybe we can do even better when we come back, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you had a huge week this week, and I want to ask a couple of questions about that, but do you want to talk about a little bit about your collaboration with Poppy and Peonies this week, and why people, even if you've already got a few bags like maybe I do, like why we need to go and purchase those bags?
Absolutely. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So Nat from Poppy and Peonies, she is Métis, and her and I had connected online. I remember the first time she had asked me to be a part of Poppy and Peonies in a shoot. And then we've collaborated on 2 other bags. Well, this past year, she had asked me if I would do a collection with her. I thought a collection was like max 10 pieces. I almost fell over when I thought it was 10 pieces. And I scrolled and scrolled and saw it was a full collection. And we've come together, every time we've come together, without a doubt, Nat and I say, there's a give back component. And we have donated a portion of the proceeds to Abbey House every time. And with this one being a full collection, it will be the largest donation, which is so exciting. And it's this beautiful patchwork strawberry print collection. There's many pieces, overnight bags to handbags to little charms, everything. And it has been a beautiful work of love between the 2 of us. And I actually shared with one of the influencers who was at this event. She asked me, why strawberries? And I gave some of the stories that people have heard behind strawberries, my memories of this hard strawberry candies, picking strawberries in the garden. But one I hadn't shared yet, and she shared it, was I realized I only have one. I have lots of memories of my dad. She shared online, got the story just changed a little bit. I have lots of memories of my dad. I only have one memory of my dad telling me a childhood memory of his.
Yeah.
And it was a teaching too. We were seated at the table, like many Métis people do, to have these teaching moments. And he got a little scoop of strawberry jam, put in a bowl, and he poured cream in it. And he stirred it. And he told me that when he was little, his family, they didn't have the means, right? And that was their treat. That was their dessert. That was their ice cream. I wanted ice cream, and that's what he was doing that for me. And he taught me that was a treat for him when he was little. And I had just kind of realized that was the only memory I got from him telling me about his childhood that I can remember. And so, yeah, those heartberries are so special. And this month being the strawberry moon, couldn't think of a better time for it to come together.
So this is the perfect, I told you this, I warned you. A surprise for you, which I'm really excited about. But I also was reflecting, and I got to tell you, first of all, that this was scheduled before I saw what happened at Sauble.
Okay.
And I yesterday I had seen your adventures, and I'd seen the celebration of strawberries, and I know that you've got a strawberry tattoo.
Yes.
And so today I was scheduled to get a hand and poke tattoo. And I now have, and I'm going to have to do it weird, but I now have a matching strawberry tattoo to yours. We talked about getting wheat sheaths at one point, but it is my tribute to you and your friendship and the love. And I just think you inspire me every day to be an incredible leader. And I wanted to honor you in this way and to always carry your gift with me wherever I go. I love you.
I actually said to Robyn, I'm going to get a new Kleenex before we even start.
And you know what, I think I wanted to share this publicly because I think that's one of the things that I love about this relationship is we do a lot of hard work, but we also love tremendously and love each other. And I think that's what makes the magic between us in some ways. Is that
absolutely.
Respect for each other and really deep like love and gratitude for each other. And you're just my hero.
You are my hero, and I am filled with so much love because of you, and I'm just so grateful. I need to see that tattoo in person. I cannot wait.
Oh, and for the audience, we always say this when we present together. This is how we are, like all the time, and I'm sure we gross people out, but I'm like, whatever. I think part of resistance is love, and leadership is love, and being like super over the top about it.
And I think you're right. It's like an act of such resistance, right? To love each other so deeply. And now I'm messing up because you really inspire me, Robyn. So thank you. You make me, I'm a better person because I have you in my life.
The feeling is so mutual. So we have a really great question, I think, to close with, actually, because we're getting close to time. And I think you and I could, this is one to unpack. But in your continued advocacy work, and this comes from the audience, what do you hope to change or see changed?
A lot. I think when we get asked that question, sometimes it feels so big because there is so much to change. I think I'm going to go back to Jesse and what he had said. So for folks that don't know, Robyn not only led the decolonial reading circle for the Calls for Justice, but she also had a secondary decolonial reading circle that you must bring back. And in a way you have, right? You continue to have guests and these incredible Indigenous leaders and authors and filmmakers. And so she had Jesse Wente come on and speak. And in that, Jesse had talked about, again, I had said about being, I actually had it tattooed on me, talking about tattoos. I've had it tattooed on me, his words. And he might think that's weird one day, but we'll see. And so he said, we have to start being instead of doing the work. And that's the change that I want to see the most. I want to see that, because if we can start being and stop doing the work of decolonizing and educating, then then that means when I say, that's a big question to answer, that means all of that is gone. And that we can just start being. I think we're already doing that work with what we're doing is for the kids, the next generation. So that is the change that I want to see. I want to see that celebration that we are just here. Like the whole idea behind the Celebrate Indigenous Resilience was to celebrate just being here.
Yeah. And that's really, that's why the Indigenous Leader Speaker Series exists, right? Because I was saying to folks, so many of the events that we had are really trauma centered, right? Whether it's Red Dress Day, whether it's Orange Shirt Day, but where are our celebrations of Indigenous excellence and our brilliance and our ways of knowing and being? And that's why this came together, right? Because I don't want people to lose sight of that story. We're not just the trauma, we're also that brilliance and excellence.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, there's one, I know we've only got a couple of minutes, but somebody wanted to, and I think it's worth recapping because this is a conversation you and I have had, and I want to read this to you. You've spoken about opportunities that were presented to you at different points in your life, and you speak about them so positively. But can you recap why you think your path has been so different from so many others who experience trauma?
Yeah. I do. I don't know. I'm going to go back to it. And I know people probably like, can you give me a different answer? It's because of the community around me, the people, like the path has been different. I think because I say that, but then I also am going to take it away from myself. And I'm going to say, like, if this was the name that was given to me, my white thunder, like what, how else would I lead my life if that was the way I was always supposed to, right? So I do think that, and then I think that it definitely had a part in the way that my father was so proud of being Métis. That was instilled in me, and I really wanted to carry that on and bring that through. So these opportunities, I speak about them so positively because along the way, you know, I've obviously had my spirit name, but I've had my dad's spirit with me. And then on top of that, the community and the people that I have met. I wouldn't have all of these folks in my life. So I'm going to talk about it in a positive light. Yes, I've met many of them because of what I've endured. However, I think that for me, I believe that that was always the way this is how I got my Robyn in my life. And we can't change it. So I'm going to be grateful for the fact that I do have you in my life, however that might have happened. So I hope that answers that.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, for those who are listening, because Fallon and I just literally had this conversation, like we were like, well, maybe, you know, we've got some privilege in that we're white passing, but neither of us grew up extremely wealthy. We, you know, in poverty, we grew up in poverty. Neither of us really had access to therapy. Like, it's none of those things. So I think that's the issue, maybe where Fallon and I collaboratively are leading towards, is like, what is it? Because if we can figure that out, we could change the world for so many people if we can figure that piece out, right? And neither of us escaped addictions either, for that matter, or mental health issues. So it's like, what is it? What was it? And I think community is that critical part too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think just maybe having the little bit of, it's hard because obviously, yes, I'm upset for what happens, but what happened to me and for you as well, beyond upset, that's like obviously an understatement. However, it's one of those things that I think we do a good job at shifting and finding what it is we can be grateful for and what it is that we can see the positive in. And that's not being toxic. That's not toxic positivity, because we're still acknowledging what has happened. It's just leaning into that and letting those things be the fuel that helps us forward.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And propels us to do what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. I can't believe the hour's over. I love you so much. I think when I got to pick this year, I was like, there is no person, I think, more deserving of this opportunity to share. I just think you are such a gift to this world. And I hope that everyone watching has a really good sense of why Fallon Farinacci is this year's Indigenous leader. Thank you.
Thank you. I am so grateful to you and to Brock. I'm just, thank you. I honestly believe that this is one of the greatest honors that I've ever received. I'm a student for life, and through my trauma, I always thought, like, I'm not successful because I didn't get a BA or master's. And so to be acknowledged like this really means so much to me.
Aww.
Thank you.
And it's never too late. I'm just going to throw that out there. Thank you. I love you. And to the world, watch what we do next.
Yeah.
So we'll turn this over to our Dean, Barry, to close us out.
Well, thank you, Robyn, and so thank you very much, Fallon. It was an amazing hour to spend listening. I was writing notes as we went along. When you talked about teachable moments, there were so many teachable moments that that really reached out to me, and I couldn't help but think a little bit about where Brock is sitting and some of the things like championing one another, and the amount of times that I heard that you championed each other. But Fallon, how many times that you were talking about other people that you've championed, and truly your message about uplifting and support is a very powerful teachable moment for us, and one that we need to hang on to. As you mentioned, I wasn't alone as well. I think that is important within, and how we need each other to continue to uplift each other. I also so welcomed when you talked about breaking down the barriers. And we know that the Indigenous community has so many barriers that have been thrust upon you. But talking about how you can break down the cycle of trauma is a very important one. But the importance of community, and I really loved how you framed it. The Indigenous communities, which is very important, but it is community. It's the collective. What's the wisdom that we can all learn from building community and making a more inclusive world? And so that really, really resonated for me. But perhaps the one that really came out, and Brock has it as well, as the lead by example, and you truly have, right? You truly have. When we talk about making the world a better place, you have gone to do that, through the public education as you're going, talking about the mental health to move forward. But when you picked on a project in particular, Abbey House and the magic number of 38 for you, but how that has continued to grow and do some amazing things, it truly finds. So if people didn't hear early, make sure you go Abbey House GoFundMe page. Let's move it up past the 111 to higher and higher and higher. I think that's a great thing to do. So I just want to say on behalf of the Goodman School and Brock University, Megwich, for your true leadership and the teachable moments that you've shared with us today.
Thank you so much.